Okay, hopefully you can all see that. So today in this Back to Basics session, this is part 4, we're going to look at the final stages of the risk management process. So that's monitoring and review. And for those of you who missed parts 1, 2 and 3, covering the previous stages of the process, as Fee said, the recordings of these can either be accessed via the website, but we will be sending out all 4 of them together when we send out today's recording, so that you've all got the whole set. I think this webinar might be a little bit shorter than the others, as there's not quite so much information around this part of the process, but just a bit of advice and guidance, really. And because we're on our own today, Phil's not here today, can you put any questions in the chat for us, and we'll get back to you on email afterwards, unless, of course, you want to answer each other's questions, which is always great. Also, when you signed up for today's webinar, we did ask if you were using a software and whether you regularly monitor your risk records. And many of you said that you don't have a software, but you do monitor your risks. So I was just wondering if you could say a little bit in the chat about how you do that. Is that by track changes on spreadsheets maybe? And sort of how do you audit that? So it's just interesting, really. Anyway, we'll get started. So in my previous webinars, we looked at objectives, we looked at risk identification and evaluation, communication and risk response. So what is monitoring and review all about? So this is the next stage in the risk management process. And the monitor and review step is actually quite crucial, and it's an ongoing phase in the risk management process. And it ensures that those risk management strategies that you have and the controls remain effective and relevant over time. So like many other aspects of the risk management process, it's not a one-time activity, it's a continuous loop of oversight and adaptation. So your risk management framework should suggest that as you work through these different process stages, you capture the risks that you've identified, the controls you currently have in place, and the current risk score and anything you're going to do to respond to the risk and how that may change that risk score. And you may be doing this currently through spreadsheets or on a risk management software such as JCAD, but all the steps in the risk management process should be carried out in the same way, regardless of what tool you're using. So once you've clarified those objectives and identified your risks and understood the magnitude of it all, and decided how you're going to respond, you've now started on that journey towards achieving those objectives. So this final stage is then to monitor and review those risks as time progresses. And put simply, it's just about being aware of the circumstances around you and how things are changing, and what effect that might be on your risks, and also maybe what new risks might be emerging on the horizon. So to break down of what this step might look like, there's 3 sort of areas. So the first one is the purpose. So what's the purpose of monitoring and reviewing your risks? So firstly, to verify that the implemented risk treatments that you've got and the controls are working as you intended in order to reduce those identified risks to their acceptable levels. It's also to identify any new risks that may emerge due to internal or external changes, as well as any changes in the likelihood or the impact of any of your existing risks. It's to analyse any risk events or near misses, and to learn lessons that can be used to improve the risk management framework maybe, and the processes that you've got in place. And it's to ensure that your risk management framework and your assessments and your treatment plans, they remain aligned with the organisation's objectives and context. And finally, on this phase, you've got compliance. So to ensure that ongoing compliance with relevant laws, any regulations, any internal policies that might have changed. So you're monitoring and review all the things around the compliance as well with your risks. The second one is the activities. So how do you carry out this part of the process? So regularly tracking key risk indicators maybe, or performance metrics, and the overall risk landscape to identify any deviations or emerging trends. And this can involve continual surveillance and periodic checks on those risks. Conducting planned reviews on your risk registers, your risk assessments, and your treatment plans at specific intervals. It might be monthly or quarterly, some risks are annually, or even when significant changes occur, you might want to go back and have a look at your risks then. You should be reviewing your risk assessments and treatment plans in response to any specific event, such as an accident or a near miss, any significant changes within the organisation, or the introduction of new technologies or changes in the external environment. Investigating incidents, failures, to understand their root causes and assess the effectiveness of your existing controls. And in this part of it, you'd also try and identify any areas for improvement. You can monitor the progress of implementing risk treatment plans and ensuring that their responsible parties are taking necessary actions and taking accountability for those risk treatments. Communicating the results of monitoring and reviews to relevant stakeholders is really important, including management and the board or the SLT. And that informs your decision making and keeps that accountability on track as well. Maintaining and updating the risk register, the risk assessments, the policies, the procedures, all those things to reflect any changes in the risks or controls. And also to keep your sort of overall risk management framework up to date as well. And continuous improvement is about using the insights gained from monitoring and review to continuously improve all aspects of your risk management processes, right from risk identification through to treatment and reporting. And the third area is when to review. When should you do this part of the process? So you should do it regularly. You should establish a schedule for periodic reviews, maybe annually as a general rule, but more frequently for the high risk environments. You should review after any significant changes. So if there's any changes in the organisational structure or the strategy, any of the processes or technology. Should review after any accidents or near misses, or if any of your significant risk events actually materialise, then you need to go back and review those risks again. If you have a change in staff personnel, so when new staff members join, they may introduce new perspectives or they might require adjustments to the risk assessments. And any introduction of new equipment or new processes, because these can introduce new hazards or new risks. So you can see that the monitor and review step is all about vigilance and change where necessary. And it's whatever fits in with your organisation. But it does ensure that that risk management is not just a static or tick box exercise, but it becomes more dynamic and more responsive. And that helps your organisation navigate those uncertainties and sort of help you towards achieving your objectives. So with the scenario in our last webinars, we looked at going to Paris for lunch across the channel, but we decided to canoe across the channel to get there. We're keen canoeists and we thought that might be a bit of an adventure. But then we also looked at the various risks, if you remember, that could happen on the way, such as our canoe sinking, getting caught in bad weather, but also the risk of getting lost and needing to be rescued. So in this monitor and review stage, we need to revisit those risks and be aware of how circumstances are changing around us and what the effect might be on those risks. And quite importantly, what new risks might be emerging. Are those shark fins on the horizon? Does that mean we now need to consider how to respond to the risk of a shark attack? We might still want to canoe to France, but we need to look at the bigger picture. If there was a storm threatening when we set out, it might have passed now. That means that we can reduce the risk of being blown off course and getting lost and needing to be rescued. You also need to think about whether your current controls are still in place and working effectively, Or have you seen evidence that something isn't working quite right? And does this mean that the current risk is higher now than you first thought? Maybe you've completed some of your planned actions. So when reviewing, you'll see that some actions have already been carried out. So does this mean the current risk has reduced, just as maybe you anticipated it might do? So this stage does allow you that time to think about all these different factors and about your risks generally. So maybe rescoring, reprioritising them as required. So many organisations have fixed time for review, say every quarter, every 6 months. Other organisations may review higher risks more often and the lower tolerated risks less often. So it really does depend on your organisation. So the time for reviews really depends on, as I say, your organisation and the wording in your risk management framework. That's always worth checking there. And if you're aware of things changing and risks needing to be updated, then you should, of course, review and update individual risks more frequently than needed. So if your organisation says all high red risks are every 3 months, but you've got a risk there that you really think needs to be looked at, there's no reason why you can't look at it within those 3 months and sort of check it more often. And this will help to ensure that you're adjusting your responses to your circumstances or as circumstances change, which will then ultimately help you ongoing achieving those objectives. So hopefully, as we've talked through the process over the last few webinars, you can start to see the value in identifying, understanding and managing your risks for a variety of circumstances, be that at a corporate level, service level, or even personally in your own lives. But just in case you're not convinced, here's a little brief summary of what we've been looking at. So as we've seen, risk can be any event that affects the achievement of your objectives. And those objectives, as I say, can be anything from organisation-wide to your own personal goals. But fundamentally, managing risk helps us to achieve those objectives because it identifies what's going to be in the way, what will hinder us getting there. And although that focus tends to be on preventing bad stuff happening, it also provides a way of getting those early indicators of things that might go wrong, and it allows us to be quite clear on what we should be doing if the risk event does materialise. Linked to this, identifying risks as part of making decisions helps those decisions be more informed. If we decide to go ahead with something, we do so fully aware of what could come up as a result of that decision, and then how we might deal with it. So we're pre-warned in our decision making. Capturing risks across an organisation allows us to understand the themes or common issues, which in turn will allow us to also consider whether a more holistic approach to managing the risk can be taken. Similarly, we can collaborate, we can share good practice in how best to manage different types of risk. So sharing our knowledge of how well different actions have gone maybe. And to ensure you're safeguarding your resources, risk management helps to prioritise those efforts and provides reassurance to your stakeholders that the organisation is behaving responsibly. And finally, there's usually an expectation from senior stakeholders in particular that there will be a risk management process in place and that those processes are being followed. So that's the end of the actual Back to Basics webinar for this session. As I said, we will be sending all the recordings out to you, but I hope you found all 4 sessions really helpful. And please do get in touch with me personally if you want sort of any further information on anything. I'm just going to go and hand over to Fee, who's going to tell you a little bit about our news and upcoming events.
Thanks, Sandra. Just one last quick slide just to let you know that the next webinar is going to be on risk reporting and Power BI. So whether you've started your Power BI journey yet or not, you might want to join us to take a look. The date's still to be confirmed, but it will be in June. So we'll hopefully get the invites out ASAP for that. We have a risk workshop in London on the 12th of June. You should have all received invitations. Everyone is welcome. It's a free event. We with free refreshments, lunch, great opportunity to network with other risk managers and peers. We've got 2 external speakers. Kate Hellstone from Girls' Day School Trust is going to be talking about education risks, and Karen Gooch from Essex County Council is going to be talking about how they're approaching devolution. I think both will be really interesting, and we're going to have some really good people attending on the day. It's always good for networking. And obviously we're going to be at Alarm in Manchester, so if you're going to be there, please pop by our stand and say hello. We'd love to meet you in person. We have, as you can see on the screen, there's a QR code there. If you are interested in scoring your current risk reporting, we have created a new scorecard for risk reporting. So please do take a minute to scan that and fill it out. It's a simple 10 questions. And as a result, you will get sent your results with tips and tricks on where you might be able to improve your risk reporting. We will also, I can send that out as well with the recording, so you can always do it when it's convenient for you. We do have a few minutes spare, Sandra. I was going to say, if anyone was interested, Sandra could do a short whistle-stop tour of Core if anyone wants to see it. I know there's quite a few people on this call that don't use risk software currently. Equally, it's up to you guys. If you want to leave, that's fine. If you want to stay and have a 10-minute look at Core, then I'm sure Sandra will do that for us. Won't you, Sandra?
Absolutely, I don't mind. I don't know if you want to put your hands up, maybe, if you'd like to stay. If not, as Fee said, that's fine. We just finished a little bit early. So if you wish to leave, that's absolutely fine, and we'll see you all soon, I expect. I'll wait here for a few minutes to see if anyone would like a quick look at Core.
I think you should do it, Sandra.
Yeah?
Yeah, just...
Okay, let's just have a quick look then. Okay, here we go then. So for those of you who don't know JCAD Core at all, I'll just go through the main bits with you so you can sort of see what it's all about. So this is the main dashboard when you first log in, and it's all permission and access based. So anyone logging in will only see what they've got access to. So they're not going to see the whole organisation, all the risk registers that you'll be able to see today. So your dashboard is an interactive area. So you have the heat map. This is showing all records in the organisation. And these are interactive. So if I say wanted to see what this red risk was here, I can click on the red box and it will bring that risk up for me underneath. I want to see what this yellow one is, likewise. Over here on the left-hand side is what we call the focus area. So again, if I want to see what all the 9 amber risks are, I can simply click there and it'll bring them all up for me here. So this is all interactive. This tells me I've got 19 risks altogether. And if I click on there, all 19 will come up. So it takes away that the interaction that I've done earlier. Also here, when I'm logging in, it'll tell me how many reviews I've got outstanding, how many control reviews, if I've got any, and how many other actions I've got. So if I show you one of these risks as well, to go into them, you simply click on the blue arrow. This one you see has got a red bell. So that tells me there's a review outstanding of some kind. I would also have got an email notification telling me this, but this is a visual. When I go into the site, I can see visually. So we'll have a look at this one, because we've done the monitor and review today. This is what I'll see when I'm reviewing a risk. So there's a little pink bar here that tells me I need to provide a review summary. So as we go down the risk page, everything is on one page. You can see. So it's all tabbed down the page. So if we look at the risk summary, this tells me what my risk event is. It can also be linked to any corporate plan or objectives if we've got those in the system. And it tells me what area the risk register is sitting on, or which risk register the risk is sitting on. And over here, we have 3 assessments here. You can have 1, 2, or 3. So we have the inherent or the gross, the residual, so after mitigation. And then we have the target of where we want to get to. So if I was reviewing this risk, I might want to say, well, I'm gonna put a target assessment in. So I'm going to click on there And I can either use the drop downs and say, well, we want to be minor, and we want it to be unlikely. So it's nice, it's plotted in the yellow box here. Or I can just plot. If I know roughly where I want it and I know what these impact and likelihoods are, then I can just plot it myself. There we go. And I'll save it with the green button here. I've now got my target score as well. And then the next tab down is further information. So there's some drop down boxes. I've got 2 on here, but you can have up to 3. So different committees that that might be interested in this risk. I can also add in a category if I wish. And then I can put in the cause and consequences, impact. Again, I can save with the green button. And then I've got all my controls here. So I can add new controls quite simply. Title, add in my owner, and the status. Let's say this is going to be a new control action. And in here I can put some details, resources, etc. I can put a target date in if I wish. I might say, well, I want this control completed by end of the year. And save. So I've now got all my controls, including the one that I've just put in. So I might review these, just check them. I can review on the spyglass. Just yet, everything's okay there. So once I've reviewed everything, I can now come back to the top, and here I can put in my details. So I can say, reviewed the rest, added in a target assessment, added in one new control, or whatever it might be. There's plenty of space there. Now it will automatically reset itself. So it's setting itself. You see here it says it's 12-month recurring review on this risk. It can be any time, like I said in the webinar, it depends on your organisation. This has been set to 12 months. Because today's the 20th of May, the system is automatically moving it now for the next review will be in 12 months' time. Can override that, but this is what the system is going to do for us. So we've added it all in, and we're now going to save. And you'll see now that that review is now saved, and it's saying the next review is 2026, and it was reviewed today by me. And if I was going into this risk at a different time and I wanted to see what that review was all about, I can simply click on the risk history and go to the grid, scroll along, and you'll see here, these are my comments that I've just put in from that last review. There's an audit trail of every review that you're doing. We've also got an audit trail up here as well that tells me everything that's happened on that risk, every single change or typo. So that's the risk. So in Explorer, you can also see an interactive section, but this is based on each register across the organisation. Remove that heat map for a minute, show the descendants. So for instance, here I can see I've got 9 records sitting under demo system as a directorate maybe. So these 4 here are the descendants. If I go to finance, keep descendants on, shows me I've got 5 records. So the 5 records are within finance, council tax and revs and bends. So each of these are separate registers, all with their own risks. Okay. You've then got a report section. So JCAD always has a set of library reports, which you can sort of click on. You can filter on them. So you can filter for a particular risk owner or a business unit, or risks out of appetite, or risks under certain categories, that sort of thing. So you can do lots of different filters. If I just run this report and just show you an example. There you go. So this is one of the library reports. Quite a lot of people use this, but it just shows 2 assessments. But the good thing about this report, it shows when the last review was due and if it's overdue. see in the demo, there's probably not a lot, but oh, this one is overdue. So this one tells us that it's 12 days overdue for a review. So this is quite a good little report. There's lots of reports on there that come standard. And then finally, I'll just show you how quick and easy it is to add a new risk. So you would select your area. Let's put one in finance. Select the person who's accountable for that risk and what status it is. So we can say this is an open risk. These two boxes here aren't mandatory, but if you have them in the background or if you'd completed them as part of the framework in the system, you can complete them there. We'll say this is Finance and Resource Committee risk, and it's processed. So we put the risk event in here. Pause. Expense. We can enter the assessments at this point, or we can save the risk and add it all later on, but I'll do it here. Let's say this is a final risk. And then our residual, bring it down. Hopefully. You can add a target, just plot the target. And there you go. Then your risk is on for you to add in your controls, add in more detail here. You can reassess it and think, actually, that's not quite right. My target should be lower. And that's at that point where you can change things. Okay, that's a quick whistle-stop tour for anyone that hasn't seen it before. Is there any questions?